Hello and welcome everyone, my name is Nostalgic and welcome to a new episode of Kooky Quest. With us here today is the co-creator of Kooky Quest, Rare Ltd, who is going to be explaining some further things as far as the series in the future here.
Yeah, hey Drew. Super excited to continue this series. So welcome to another episode of Kooky Quest, our Kooky Questions side quest series where we task ourselves with a quest in discussing and reviewing various gaming topics and news. For today's quest, we actually have some recent news lately that's quite interesting. So Craig Duncan, the lead of Rare, has actually been promoted to the head of Xbox Game Studios. And now Jim Horth and Joe Neate of Rare are going to be taking over the lead roles of Rare respectively. So should be an interesting topic today.
It definitely should be a very interesting topic, and of course, both of you and I are lifelong Rare fans. Of course, I grew up with them as a kid in the 90s, so during the SNES era with Donkey Kong Country. Of course, they dominated in the N64 era with Banjo-Tooie, GoldenEye, all those wonderful titles there. I did keep up with them still, like some after the Rare purchase. Had an Xbox 360, currently do have one again here, and I think a lot of their output even during that time was still really good. But it was kind of after that point, after a lot of the original team left, after the Stamper Brothers left, Grant Kirkhope and all those other great people that kind of made old Rare, I kind of fell off them a little bit. Although I've kind of watched them. I see they did Rare Replay, which looks really cool. Sea of Thieves, of course, has been a mega success. It's kind of really put them back on the map with in popularity and such. But so to kind of get things started, we're going to start with this VGC article by Andy Robinson, who ironically used to work at Playtonic Games, and he's talking here about Craig Duncan has been promoted to the head of Xbox Game Studios. And Craig Duncan, of course, has been there for nearly 14 years. And with this new role, he's going to be taking to Xbox that really has a lot of teams that he'll be watching, like Rare, of course, Obsidian, Ninja Theory, Double Fine, Undead Labs, World's Edge, and even more than that. And I like with this quote here that just says that let's see, I know that, so here's kind of a funny little thing here that of course, Craig Duncan and Rare, they've been working with Sea of Thieves, and we're reporting to the president of game content, Matt Booty. With says he can't help it, he can't escape the pirate terminology there, and he mentions here that. In his new role, Craig will continue to focus on helping our studios deliver high-quality, differentiated game experiences that can grow into successful franchises and reach more players by investing in new IP. And that's one thing you definitely can say about Craig Duncan, is that he definitely is extremely forward-thinking, which is a topic of conversation very much in and of itself.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's interesting, he actually replaced Alan Hartman, who was the former lead of Turn 10 Studios, who's responsible for the Forza series. It can definitely be said that Craig is a very forward-thinking individual. And if nothing else, the changes he has done with the inclusiveness, the ability for the teams of any dev position to share ideas, and what he's done for Rare Studios physically, like the new barn they've added to their used to be the standard 2 barn sort of 2-team thing. They now have a 3rd barn, and if you haven't seen it, it's very eco-friendly, very incredibly good design, and at least as far as the studio goes, the man has definitely taken some steps for quality of life improvements for sure. Definitely an unexpected news to hear for me. And honestly, I think you covered it perfectly. I was going to touch on it. The Stamper Brothers leaving in 2007. A lot of people don't think about this, but with Jim Horth and Joe Neate taking over a role of the lead role of Rare with 2 individual people, it's the first time we've actually had that dynamic since the Stamper Brothers, since 2007, and their work they were finishing in 2008. So yeah, definitely interesting. Definitely some positives, and definitely. As I continue to say, and I'll probably say a few times, definitely cautiously optimistic.
Oh yeah, and I think that there are definitely reasons to be cautiously optimistic, and I think there's this really good article that was posted by fellow Rare fans at DK Vine. Sam, do you wanted to go over that one a little bit, just some of the key points with that?
Oh yeah, sure. And DK Vine, kind of with the sentiment I just shared, DK Vine has probably the most similar thought process to this whole promotion and new lead of Rare sort of thing. To me, it's like very reassuring to hear that Kyle Russell of DK Vine has very similar thought process, and they've been following Rare for since the SNES days. But anyway, so Kyle was saying he kind of introduced his ideas with Craig Duncan being the studio head of Rare Limited for nearly 14 years now, as Drew had said. He is now the head of Xbox Game Studios, retiring Alan Hartman. Uh, it sort of kind of gives a little history in his article about how they were purchased, his history with Rare specifically. When the Stamper Brothers left in the Connect Sports years, kind of how Greg Mayles was kind of in a lead role, but not the leader. And I kind of refer to it myself. No offense, there's some very respectful work to be able to rival Wii Sports and Nintendo, but I kind of refer to as the dark years, the Connect Sports contract era. But as you said, now in this new era, as a lot of people at Vine call the Rare Renaissance, we have Rare Replay and Sea of Thieves now going strong. Now even the first Rare game on a PlayStation platform, which is pretty awesome. And he talks about all that in the first opening here. But I must say, like what he says here with his tenure would also see the restoration of Manor Park, Rare's sprawling Twycross campus that was at risk of shuttering in the early 2010s, as its then management weighed a permanent move to Birmingham. Speaking to DK Vine on and off the record several times over the last decade, Duncan has expressed a deep admiration for Rare's history and its place in the industry. Although many fans of Banjo-Kazooie, Conker, and other legacy Rare properties, which along with Donkey Kong are the banana bread and butter of our fan groups and this website, have criticized his time in charge for the lack of new entries in those legacy titles. He did give the green light, and it must be noted, to revivals headed up by studios outside of Rare, including everything from Killer Instinct, Conker's Big Reunion, to Battletoads 2020, as well as recently, as he goes on to explain, the Nintendo collaborations, which we do know he had a big part in these Xbox Studio collaborations, which kind of makes his role that much more justified as the head of the respective Xbox Game Studios. But gotta mention Smash Bros. During his time, and he kind of talks about Everwild and his involvement with both Sea of Thieves and Everwild. And although, as he quoted, Duncan has sort of been, ridiculed a slight for his take on the worst thing would be for Rare to go backwards and work on other older IPs just for the sake of it. I can respect that opinion to a degree, as I don't think you should have anyone, as Heil sort of touches upon, like anyone forced to work on that, but definitely he has come up with some other ways that these legacy titles are continuing, and I hope that they kind of double down now with the extra barns and extra teams with these two guys. Joe Neate, who I've actually followed, and he explains more in this article. Joe Neate joined Rare in 2013 after having worked with Duncan at Sumo Digital, another great game developer, and has been executive producer on Sea of Thieves throughout. Jim Horth joined Rare a little over 20 years ago, first working on R&D on Conker and Live and Reloaded, one of the first Xbox titles. So he's been there, as he continues to explain, throughout their Xbox days at Rare. So these guys clearly have a history in the industry and a respect for Rare's history. So it's definitely cool to see him say, ending his article by saying the same thing. Cautious optimism. Having met Craig Duncan himself at E3 2015 and speaking with him candidly on and off when visiting Rare and in 2016, for several years after, his dedication as studio head has always been ensuring Rare's fate and was secure after its tumultuous decade post buyout from Xbox. So definitely cautiously optimistic. I gotta say, I definitely agree with that sentiment.
Oh yeah, and I think there's definitely a lot of good, positive things that are highlighted there. Especially, just think of the fact that there has been the revival of relationships between Rare and Nintendo again, Rare, Nintendo, and Microsoft. Which is the fact that we did get Banjo-Kazooie and Smash, we did get Banjo-Kazooie for Nintendo Switch Online, and a variety of Rare games since. And I imagine there are more that are coming down the pipeline. So I mean, I think that there definitely have been some positives, even if you're more of a fan of the legacy Rare stuff there.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think it's fair to say, PlayStation and Xbox, both the mass firings that have been happening in waves. PlayStation's management of its studios has, in my opinion, it's lost my trust a long time back, and Xbox more recently even. I do love the idea, like Double Fine has expressed, about like, oh, the creative freedom, but it seems with the closure of Tango Softworks or Tango Gameworks, the creators of Hi-Fi Rush, I can't be sure of anything that's going on as far as Xbox's executive decision making. But PlayStation, Xbox, like PlayStation getting rid of Jim Ryan, it seems like they're in kind of adjustment periods. And although Nintendo is in a great position, I am eager to see where these changes continue to go. And with Craig Duncan's new shift, and especially and with my focus, or probably our focus, and our audience's focus, the change up on the team of Rare having two people in the lead role, just like the Stamper days, it's definitely interesting, and I can't wait to see what happens.
I definitely want to give like kind of my take on the fact that we do have dual leadership, and I think it's interesting that we have both someone, you know, that came into Rare still while the Stamper brothers and a lot of the other old Rare people were still there and is still working there to this day. He celebrated his 20th anniversary pretty recently, a couple of years ago, and there's the fact that, you know, he knows that side of Rare. And then of course we have Joe Neate, of course. He's been like the executive producer on Sea of Thieves, so he kind of is that part of that new aspect of Rare. And I can't help but just thinking out loud here. It's just we have that again, the dual leadership, the one from old Rare, one from new Rare. There, I can kind of almost see a situation where one is kind of working on the newer stuff like Everwild, another one is kind of could be assigned to work on some more legacy stuff, and they built that new barn. They have they have stuff going on there. We have no idea what Greg Mails is currently working on. I mean, when we last knew he was working on some extra Everwild stuff and maybe some other additional stuff, but I'm just interesting again just to see what this new leadership brings here.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, for Greg Mails, what we do know is the guy who established the concept with Luis O'Connor, who's actually the creative director of Everwild, which a big round of applause for Luis O'Connor. She's been around ever since, and even prior to the Conquer days, she was a super big key role in animating Conquer. She's actually talked about having nightmares from having to animate the military section of like squirrels like getting killed and walking around with their arm blown off, and she had nightmares forever. So this woman has contributed so much to a lot that we grew up with, and it's awesome to see her creatively lead a game like this for the first time. But yeah, so Greg Mails actually took over a lead designer role on that game. I believe it's been 3 or 4 years now. And recently, actually, Jez Corden on Twitter, and I think he posted on Reddit as well, actually revealed a few days ago that they're just getting the gameplay loop completely solidified, and that we should be hearing news sooner than later about Everwild. So definitely cool. And as far as like Jim Horth, I wasn't familiar with him admittedly before today, but Joe Neate, he has been a huge ideal like player for Rare, and especially for Sea of Thieves. Both these guys, I should say, they both have credits in Rare Replay. And as Drew said, I mean, back when they announced that they were doing Rare Replay, and obviously mostly one team, and Sea of Thieves, a newer sort of step forward with another team, it's kind of encouraging that they kind of have, you know, some legacy stuff on the side, and then some future stuff on the side as well. And like Battletoads, we know that was a small team led by Paul Collins, who's since left, but another small team of Rare collaborating with them. And I guess after the game comes out, we'll probably hear about collaborations with the Perfect Dark team. It's just encouraging, and I really hope that they continue down this path.
Yes, and Craig Duncan, I mean, he has done at least like at least by my count, at least like 3 new legacy Rare projects during his tenure. We have Killer Instinct, Battletoads, and now this Perfect Dark project coming up. And I think a lot of people though are we're still waiting for the big one. We're still waiting. Oh, yeah. We're still waiting for Banjo-Kazooie to come back. But we tend to focus on those statements where like, oh well, if you do this old stuff, if we remake the old stuff, it's the worst thing Rare can do. Like there's a one guy on YouTube who's like called that Canada guy. He seems to believe that he has a personal animosity towards Banjo-Kazooie or some of the legacy stuff. And I don't think that's exactly the case. I think he respects the legacy, but if the legacy is going to come back, it needs to come in a way that's new and fresh and bring something interesting to the table.
Yeah, I think I can agree there. And he's a pretty good YouTuber. A lot of it's speculative, of course, but like, yeah, as far as Craig Duncan, I mean, you got to think too, from his point of view, joining a game development studio, taking a role, like filling, honestly, two pairs of shoes, massive pairs of shoes. It's got to be really overwhelming, especially given the time when he joined in. So I could definitely understand, I wouldn't say animosity, but I could understand wanting to establish a new legacy, joining a studio in a lead role with such an extensive, impressive legacy already established. And like, especially with the fans, it's got to be tough. I got to be honest with like the split that Rare fans have at times. And this news has been touchy for certain people. In our case, we have all sorts of gamer like groups that follow us, but I think a lot of it's like the classic new Nintendo and Rare centric fans. So definitely some debate between like the point you brought up. Yeah, like about him thinking it'd be the worst thing. And although I can agree as far as creative freedom, I think that with Craig Duncan, at least there's been some desire, and he said that in the same article, it should be mentioned, that if someone pitches an idea or whatever, they'll go from there, if it's creative within the team or outside of Rare, as Battletoads and Conker's Big Reunion, etc., Killer Instinct have shown. But yeah, I think the future's pretty well open now. And I can't say I dislike Craig, and I'm not the biggest fan, but I can respect and admire what he's done for Rare and the passion he has for really building a good place for game developers to work with creative freedom and creative passion. I think we want to say one of the positive things. I actually have in our Discord here, we have Jim Horth and Joe Neate's like past in the industry, and Joe Neate has kind of like come from the bottom. Like he started in quality assurance, product testing coordination, QA management. So he went from tester to like QA manager to producer. And following Sea of Thieves, like Joe Neate is passionately talking about the studio of Rare and its dynamic in the Rare Replay behind the scenes videos. But again, he was instrumental in like the launch of Sea of Thieves, and for a long time, he was the face of presenting us Sea of Thieves fans with news. So I feel like we have a couple really good people taking this role from Craig, and we might be in good hands.
Yeah, it sounds like Rare is going to be in good hands, and in a lot of ways, it has been in great hands over these last 14 years with Craig Duncan at the head. I think this has been a very, very good and enlightening discussion and kind of talking about this news. We did want to ask you guys watching here today kind of what your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on Craig Duncan being the new head of Microsoft Games with the studios there? Do you think that the new leadership of Rare is going to bring something new and interesting to the table? And we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section down below. We do also want to mention that we have an upcoming episode of Kooky Questions, a special one that we like to call Spooky Questions. Sam, do you hear that?
No, I didn't hear anything.
Okay, well, never mind. We'll I guess. Anyways, but yes, we're excited to get that going. We do have some Twitter posts. If you guys want to answer those, I can include a link to those if you want to kind of give your feedback as far as the questions we posted. And Rare Ltd will be posting at least one more in relation to that special. We're excited to talk about that further. And if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to go ahead, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. We do appreciate the feedback so far in the first episode of Kooky Quest, over 100 views on that. That's honestly great. That at least that people like to listen to us and all that. Ray Rarrington, you had some further thoughts there?
I just feel like we should, if people want to let us know their comments or any of their thoughts in the comments, like what do you guys think about Rare? Are you thinking it's a good switch up? Are you nervous about it? Do you not care? Do you want to tell me your favorite, topping on pizza? Feel free, whatever.
All right, awesome. Yeah, we would love to hear all your thoughts about all these different things. But again, this has been a great discussion. I hope you guys all have an excellent and wonderful day, and take care. Bye, everyone.
See ya.